Writers of nonfiction reference texts present their facts by using words and text features like photographs, illustrations, and different types of print. We can often locate important information and understand the big ideas by reading all around the page and looking at the text feature clues and key sentences on the page. Today we are going to see how when we read nonfiction reference articles, we learn the important facts by paying attention to the first and last sentences in the descriptive paragraphs, as well as reading around the page's text features. Let's begin by reading a chimpanzee's body from Zoo Books, Chimpanzees aloud. A chimpanzee's body is made for climbing and swinging in the trees. With its long arms, a chimp can easily reach from branch to branch, and with its flexible hands and feet, it can grab and hook onto them. Because of this ability to reach and hang on, a chimpanzee can travel across thin branches without breaking them. Reading the first and last sentences of this paragraph really helped me understand the big idea. The first sentence says, a chimpanzee's body is made for climbing and swinging in the trees. The last sentence, because of this ability to reach and hang on, a chimpanzee can travel across thin branches without breaking them. Here, in the first paragraph, the big idea is that chimpanzees' bodies are really made for climbing. Let's read the second paragraph. In many ways, chimpanzees' bodies are a lot like ours. Like us, chimps do not have tails. They have no hair on their faces or on the palms of their hands or the soles of their feet. They have fingernails and toenails instead of claws or hooves. And perhaps most important of all, chimps have big brains. Did you notice how the big idea of this paragraph is shown in the first and last sentences? In many ways, chimpanzees' bodies are a lot like ours, and perhaps most important of all, chimps have big brains. This is one way to show us that chimps are a lot like us, which is the big idea of the second paragraph. Notice how there's not a lot of body text on this page. It is because there are so many text features that give us extra information. Let's finish reading the page. A chimp's feet are really like an extra pair of hands. Using their thumb like big toes, chimps can wrap their feet around a tree trunk or a branch. So when climbing, they can grip with both their feet and their hands. And here is an example of that. Like humans and other primates, chimps use the precision grip for holding objects between the thumb and fingers. They use this grip when picking up small objects. To hold on to large objects, chimps use the power grip. Without the ability to grab and hold on to branches, chimps could not brachiate. Humans use the same kind of grip, for example, when holding a hammer. It's easy to tell the two types of chimps apart. Bonobos are slightly smaller than common chimps, and they usually have a part running down the middle of their heads. Sometimes their hair even sticks out sideways. So I can pretty much figure out that this is a bonobos chimp because the text gave me some clues. It is smaller, and it has a part running down the middle of its head. Chimps have big expandable mouths for carrying fruit and other objects. This leaves their hands free for moving about in the trees or for holding a baby chimp. A chimpanzee's arms are longer than its legs. Chimps have very flexible arm joints. They can hang by one hand and turn their bodies completely around. Chimps usually walk on the soles of their feet and on the knuckles of their hands, as you see here. But when they need to, they can also walk on two legs. For example, to see ahead or when carrying something in their arms. Let's look at some text features from the first two pages. First, we see bold text that captures our attention and tells us that that part is important. We also see close-up images, and we see captions with our images to further explain what's going on. Without these captions, we wouldn't know what these pictures were about. Here again, we have another close-up photo with a caption, and here, this close-up photo helps us understand what our text is saying. The close-up image of the chimp's foot compared to the human foot really helps me visualize how they're similar. The close-up image of the chimpanzee's skeleton helps me visualize that his arms are longer than his legs, as stated here. Have you noticed how we are gathering so much information without reading a lot of text? This is a really cool way to read nonfiction. Let's look at the next page. Chimps belong to large groups or communities, but they also spend much of their time in small groups looking for food and socializing. Chimps can be very loving and they can be very aggressive when necessary. Each chimp holds a rank or place in the community. Usually one male holds the top rank. He leads fights against predators or against chimpanzees from other territories. Sometimes the group tries to scare the strangers away by calling loudly and charging fiercely. Chimps have even been known to attack and kill strangers, but within their own community, chimps are much gentler with each other, although they do sometimes quarrel. That means fight. After a quarrel, often within half an hour, they make up by holding a hand out to the other and kissing. The tension in the community is relieved, and the others offer consolation with pats and hugs. Chimps have many ways of communicating with each other in their complex society. Male chimps shake branches, throw rocks, and charge each other in a display meant to intimidate others and demonstrate superiority. The male that puts on the fiercest display becomes, or remains, the leader. Eventually, another chimp or a group of chimps will challenge and overthrow him. What did you notice about the first and last sentences of the first paragraph? The big idea of this paragraph is that chimps belong to communities or small groups. The big idea of this paragraph is that each chimp holds a rank. Let's see what else we have on this page. Chimpanzees are noisy animals. They have more than 30 different calls to communicate with each other. A chimp's hoot can be heard up to 2 miles away. Chimpanzees often share their food with each other. When a chimp finds a tree with lots of fruit, he may call the others to a feast. While eating, chimps grunt to show how happy they are. While the males are displaying, the females and babies stay out of the way. Male chimps become so excited that they could hurt somebody without meaning to. Chimps show their feelings with gestures, noises, and facial expressions. There may be genuine smiles or happy faces, nervous grins, or grins that say, "Let's be friends again," and pouts to express disappointment. Chimps have many signals to tell each other how they feel, to warn each other of danger, and how to report where food is. Chimps eat mostly fruit, leaves, seeds, and flowers, but they will also feast on ants, honey, eggs, caterpillars, birds, and sometimes small animals, even, rarely, other chimps. This picture actually shows us all the different things that chimps eat. This image actually also has labels to show you what each thing is. Insects, bananas, nuts, celery, fruit, meat. Today we learned how we gather important information presented in nonfiction text by reading around the page. By paying close attention to the first and last sentences in descriptive paragraphs and looking at text features such as images, captions, and bold print, we learn a lot of really cool facts. Let's be sure to keep this in mind as we continue our study of nonfiction and when reading independently. Here are some nonfiction text structures, and we're going to look at a few of these. The first one is photographs and illustrations, and we know that those are visuals or images, and they help the reader understand exactly what something looks like. There were a lot of photographs in this chimpanzee article that helped us better understand what the text was talking about. Another text feature we saw a lot were captions and labels. Captions and labels are single words, short phrases, or paragraphs that accompany illustrations, photographs, or diagrams, and they help the reader better understand the picture. We had a lot of those as well. Here are some captions that explained the similarities between the chimpanzee foot and the human foot, and the chimpanzee's grip and the human grip. Here we showed an image of 2 different types of chimpanzees, which was explained in this caption. Here we showed how chimpanzees walk and what they can do with their arms and legs. Here we showed how chimpanzees find their rank in the community. And here we had an image with a caption and labels of what chimpanzees eat. Here we see some different types of print. We saw boldface print, which was shown here and in the title, as well as here at the beginning of the next page. We also see some different types of print here. We saw bold print at the beginning of the paragraph and as well as the title. We also saw bold print at the beginning of this page. And we saw italics a couple times, showing us words that are important. Here, communities are in italics, and that just tells us to pay attention to that word, and it means the same thing as large groups. And we saw italics here for the word brachiation. I want you guys to read cricket, anyone, and be sure to pay attention to the big idea of each paragraph, referring to the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph. And I also want you to pay attention to the different text features in this article.